3 times a year, I host a mastermind for some of the biggest names in the online business space. And in this video, I'm going to share a clip from day one of the last mastermind that we hosted in the beginning of November. We're going to cover how I'm doing about $300K a month right now without setters, closers, sales calls. In fact, my whole team is just me and a VA. I have other videos on the channel on how we're doing that. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the thought process that we all believe will win in 2026, the ideal business model, propaganda content, ad structure, tracking, data, AI and automations, delegating. And everybody paid a minimum of $24,000 to be there. And the average monthly revenue of the people in this room is about $102,000 a month. That said, let me bring you on over to day one of the last Bulletproof Boardroom Mastermind.
All of us, whether we like it or not, are all playing in the same physical universe, which all the same rules apply. And so the way that I've been able to do is how I think, and it's been helpful for apparently you guys, you're here. But look at everything like a map. Everything that we're ever trying to do is to go from point A to point B. You all good with me so far? That's all we're trying to do. If we want to make a change, get better, make more money, that means there's a point B that we're not at. And that means we're at somewhere else, point A. Good so far? I know this is, okay, dude, but people forget this shit all the fucking time. So, fundamentals. So we got to know where we are, where we want to go, and we have to reverse engineer it. As obvious and no shit duh as that seems, nobody does this. If they think they do it, yet they're not making progress, they're not doing it well or accurately. When we're talking about intentions, I'm gonna not just fly through this. I'm gonna give you a bit of an extra flavor on this that I don't have in VSLs or YouTube shit. And I'm gonna try to tie it back to things that are on your mind. So most people, which is why I pre-trolled you guys on, have an actual solid real intention that we can write down, not just, I don't know, I'm just here for the fucking, that's how most people go throughout life. They want more money. They pick vague goals. I want to hit 100K a month. I want to hit $1 million a month. I want to be rich. That's vague. Okay. So the clearer that you can define where you want to go and put actual coordinates to it, and I'm talking like crystal motherfucking clear, the easier everything becomes. And not to go woo on it, but this is like the mechanical physical universe explanation of how manifestation works. You can't just define it and then wish for it. You define it and then you reverse engineer it, and then you start working the plan to make progress towards it. And the clearer that you are on where you're trying to go, and the clearer the plan is, the faster these little, like, I'll just say, side miracle events start to take place. Like the client comes out of nowhere just so that you can hit your whatever goal for the month because you've hit all the other KPIs, and just some old client came back and decided they wanted to pay their $10,000 bill that they ducked out on. Or a client came out of the woodwork and was like, hey, can I pay you 50 grand for this? Anybody ever had a situation like that where it just magically seemed to happen? How you create those, in my experience, what I've seen in working with you guys and all the other people that I've seen under the hood of how they do shit, the clearer that you are on the end result that you're trying to create, and the more you just start doing the inputs that are required, the more those little miracle things be like, okay, I see that you're serious. And I just look at it as like, universe is helping you out by giving you a little nudge because you've actually proven that you're serious by actually doing what's required. To use a simple fitness example, you got a fitness only offer. These guys need to track their fucking macros and track their workouts, do they not? Yeah. Is somebody serious about hitting their fitness goals if they're not tracking their macros or tracking their workouts? So, ta-da, it's not going to happen. But if you are tracking, even if it's not perfect, you start to experience a change, a transformation, and you start to get, I'll just say, the help, because it's obvious to the infinite intelligence of the physical universe that we live in. It becomes more obvious that, oh, this person's actually serious about accomplishing this result. They're not just saying it. There's a very big difference. And most 99.9% of people, at least in our industry, and honestly, like outside of our industry, it's like 100% of people don't do any of this at all, at all. And so the bar, you've heard Hormozy say, like the bar for success is really fucking low. It really is. All you got to do is get clear on what you want and write it the fuck down. The resistance that people have to doing that is understandable. The mind's job is to keep you in confusion. It's designed to keep you stuck and trapped in the physical universe. It's designed to keep you reactive to what's happening out there. And so it convinces you that you already have it clear enough. You just need more leads or whatever the fuck. And the volume of people that have been chasing more leads since the dawn of time is hilariously sad that don't have the results that they want. And so it all starts with getting absolute hyper crystal clear on what you're trying to create and why. You've done a very good job of this, which is why you have the results that you fucking have. Roderick's done a good job of this. Those of you who are you've done an incredible job of this. His attention to detail is, and Isaac as well. Your attention to detail is as much as you don't see it necessarily, just based on your communication to me. I'm like, dude, like you might not realize it, but you're fucking up here, bro. And it's just being accurate. Most people are just, they don't want to face being accurate because it's really fucking painful to face reality. Because the reality, how many of you guys, when you set up either Monarch or Teddy, you were disappointed initially, like maybe severely disappointed? Be honest, raise your hand. Yeah. But you can only change reality if you face reality. And it's fucking painful because everybody's convinced themselves that where they are is someplace different. And so everybody's trying to navigate from some other place because they've been lying to themselves about how good they're doing, how much money they're making, how much they have in the bank. And on all of your onboarding forms, I asked, what's your financial freedom strategy? What's your personal finance tracking strategy? What's your business finance strategy? I don't know, I just check my fucking bank accounts once a month and just try to spend a little less, I guess. That's like the average of what people fucking do. Duh, you're not serious. That's okay. But you have to really, there's no getting around this. We were having a conversation the other night, with a good friend of mine, not in this industry, but trying-ish. He's a golfer. It's a decent following actually, but not monetizing it at all. I digress. His evaluation of where he wants to go and what it's going to take and whatnot is pretty severely off. And we all have, and that's not just a knock to him, it's just we all have our mind, if you want to call it our ego, that doesn't want to be wrong. The biggest fear of all humans is being wrong. So we'll do whatever we can to be right, even if we know we're fucking wrong. Anybody ever been in that situation where you know you're wrong, but you dig your heels in further to really just justify that you're right about this one and this one's different? Raise your hand. I've been fucking doing this, right? Yeah. So that's what the mind does. So first of all, once you understand that, it's easy to spot because it happens with everybody all the fucking time. Everybody's just lying to themselves constantly. That's why nobody wants to be held accountable, right? If a setter says, I'm going to book 5 today and I'm going to do X number of outbound DMs, gets to the end of the day, and let's say you're supposed to do 100 outbound DMs and book 5, but he did 37 outbound DMs and book 2. There's always a justification as to why, and then there's all this emotion around it, when the reality is like he's lying to himself about a number of things there, and that needs to be addressed, and it can't be allowed. It can't be allowed from ourselves, and it can't be allowed from a team member of ours. Like, we just have to face reality. That's why tracking is so fucking vital, is because it's the only way to face reality, even if it's fucking painful. Okay, so I digress a little bit, but as simple as this thing is, everybody's lying to themselves about where they are, and they have a vague idea-ish of where they have convinced themselves they want to go, and they call that an accurate plan, and they go around telling everybody how well they plan, and then they are in complete delusion, no awareness of reality. So anyway, this fundamental here is so huge, I could just sit here on this thing all fucking day. The reason that I have certain criteria for this business that I'm, at least in my experiment of attempting to build this thing to exactly what I want, it's very specific criteria, and it makes it a lot more challenging from a short-term money-making standpoint. But everybody that we have, even if they're on Zoom or watching the replay on this, or they're just an active client, not here, everybody that we've onboarded in this process, there's not a single person that I've wanted to punch in the face. And that is progress for me. So I've clearly defined what are the traits of the people that I want to punch in the face. And I make sure that I tell them to go fuck themselves in my content. And what are the criteria of the people that I want to hang out with? And I say, you're my people in my content. And they self-select. It's wonderful. But that criteria is very clearly defined. I've defined it as I will go as far as I can without putting my family in a financially irresponsible situation to basically get my machine to where I don't require any more than myself and a VA. And I believe right now I can get to at least 100 in the boardroom. No fucking problem with just being a VA. No problem at all. Arguably 200. And we'll talk about the nuances as to why that is. But it's my point is on this thing here is it's been clearly defined what I'm willing to do, what I'm not willing to do, and I build my rules. So you guys might have heard me say this, like everything, the physical universe, life is a game. It requires goals, boundaries, obstacles, and rules. And we're either playing somebody else's game and somebody else's boundaries and rules, or we create our own. And if you're creating your own, or you have convinced yourself that you're creating your own, but they're not fucking written and you're not following them, then you're just lying to yourself and reactively abiding by somebody else's rules that they've created for you. You guys follow what I just said? So you have to be very deliberate about creating the boundaries and rules. You're entrepreneurs. You're in control of your own life. If you're not designing your life, somebody else is designing it for you. And as Jim Rohn said, guess what they have designed for you or planned for you? Anybody know that quote? Guess what if you're not planning your own life, somebody else is planning it for you. And guess what they have planned for you, Albie? Not much, as Jim Rohn said. So you got to be very deliberate. So for those of you who are like, oh, it's like you're an engineer, you're meticulous. It's like you have no choice but to be. It's not a trait. It's you're already doing this. You're just doing a shit job at it. That's okay. You just got to like stop telling yourself the story that whether it's you're not organized or whatever it is, because the same rules of the physical universe apply to all of us, whether we like it or not. Whether we admit that we're this type of person or that type of person. Everybody's, I'm not a numbers person. It's if you buy shit and you require funds to live your life, you better fucking become one. What's your alternative? Give me a good, viable alternative and then show me an example of that working. So it's given that you can create your own, you can design everything, design your life to where you become and have the traits and actions that actually align with how the fucking physical universe actually works. If you're not, you're just applying some random bullshit and you're going to sit there guessing and hoping and dreaming. And you're going to be wondering why you're a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now in the same fucking position. The worst part about this, and I actually went on a good solid rant on the YouTube video that's dropping Monday. I really let them have it. Watch it. I think it's pretty aggressive. The volume of people who hear what I just said and go, yeah, I got it all. I already got all that. I just need to work on X because I know their confirmation bias and their ego, and they're selling themselves and essentially smoking their own exhaust, drinking their own Kool-Aid. They've so ingrained themselves in their world of delusion that it's almost to no return. But it's amazing the people that are so delusional and not accurate on fucking anything, yet convincing themselves that they are. That's the sin of the whole thing. It's fine if you're fucked. Just be like, yeah, I'm fucked there. It's negative. It sucks. Let's change it. What's the bad thing? The thing that really makes it challenging for people to get what they want is knowing that deep down, but trying to either they've convinced themselves they can just fake it till they make it. That bullshit needs to stop. That's all right. But that happens again. I'm sick and Elliot on you. Place your bets. All right. Here we are. All right. The delusion level is fucking real. And it's insane. And it's like everybody. Okay. I don't want to digress too heavily from this, but there's a scale of, you all have seen the emotional tone scale, right? there's a levels of awareness scale that goes simultaneous with that. I shared it with you guys, I think, at our last. I remember there's delusion, hope, demand for improvement. Without doing a whole swappy of my iPad and this, I have it on the iPad, but in fact, maybe it's easy. We're gonna find out. Ooh, I did it right. Hang on, check me out. Holy shit, look at me go. I'm fast. Ha! This is what we call setting your future self up for success. That was leverage in real time, folks. Okay, you all have seen this emotional tone scale. Anybody not seen this? Okay, great. So at the bottom, lowest energy, right? As we go up, energy gets greater. From here, we go from this is effect to cause up here. We want to be cause. Most people think they're cause, but they're just reactive cause. Now, this is all the way up here because the gap between really being ultimate cause, indisputable and unshakable ability to command and influence one's own environment at the highest level of power, strength, and courage. This is what I'm talking about, the creator of games. From up here, we create. In fact, layering this on top of it, we have create, cause, light at the bottom, and that's starting things. This is the initial enthusiasm that you have when you start your business. Yay, we're going to start. In the middle here, and this lines up with this tone scale here. In the middle here, we have this line, anger, antagonism, this whole section right here. That's where we're going down into the physical universe, fucking shit up, experiencing friction and changing it. You following me? Up here, light, but we got to, from light, we got to go down in the physical universe and change that shit, right? Then we can go back up if we want. But we got to be able to change stuff. We got to be able to go down into the physical universe, manipulate it, change it. Manipulate just means handle skillfully with hands, mandibles, manipulate, just so we're on the same page on vocabulary here. And so that's where change happens. And at the bottom, we have stop. This is all the lower toned emotions. This is where destruction, being in effect, where heaviness happens. So how many of you guys have ever felt heavy in some way, shape, or form? Right? So that's when our emotional tone level drops. And in order to change that, we have to go up through antagonism. We got to, in so many words, to use basic sales shit, you got to get angry at your current situation so that you take a step to invest to make a change. You guys following me so far? And then on the other side of that, now we can start creating. So most people that you guys deal with on calls or off calls, all your prospects are somewhere in here, probably, by the time they actually get to you. Depressed people usually don't go out of their way to take action to book a call or reach out. So they've gotten to where they're afraid of what happens if they don't make this change. And that's why they end up reaching out. And so during a call, you're going like this usually. And what you're trying to get them to do in our call script that Isaac, I know you've gone deep on recently. So this is going to add some serious flavor for you recently and anybody who fucking does calls. The goal is to get them so angry at their situation and so afraid if they keep doing what they're doing that they go, fuck it, I don't care what it costs, I'm investing. You guys following me? And so what you're doing in your calls is you're trying to basically get them disgusted at their current situation. And you're taking that, when has the past been disgusting? What's the future? How is that going to be disgusting if you continue? Why is it disgusting now? Why are you angry about it now? So they're like, all right, fuck it. And then they get to this buying line. They get to this antagonistic, displeased, right? Call it a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or hostility. The only difference, and you hear me, if you guys go through my marathon fucking sales call training, which according to Isaac, it's legendary. So I like to agree with him. You're basically just constantly pushing this button to get them, you're aligned with them, not getting angry at you, but directing that anger at the problem. And when you do that, they sell themselves. Okay. Now, everybody, thumbs up if you're with me so far. This is a bit of a roundabout way of achieving what I was set out to achieve with this, but I figure this makes sense. Okay. There's two scales here. So we have on the left here, this is this emotional tone scale that we just covered. On the right here is a scale of awareness. So at the bottom, we have complete disconnection, right? Somebody's depressed. What do? They go off, disconnect, mope, be alone. Right above that, they start to take a little bit more action and they might believe that they deserve punishment, right? Anybody ever seen or heard of, or maybe personally, of where self-harm, you start, whether it's cutting yourself or berating yourself, even verbally, right? Anybody ever witnessed this or experienced this personally? Okay. So that's where sadism, masochism, that's at that awareness level. Then we're fixed on this loss. So we have guilt, shame, sadness, grief. It's fixed on, it's like, I feel this heavy fucking loss. Then we start to get up into hallucination. We're hallucinating that people are judging us, that we can't do stuff. From here, just below fear, we have terror and shock, right? If somebody's depressed, if popped out of the closet with a fucking scream mask on, right, in the middle of the night, they would be in shock and instantly they'd be out of depression, but they'd only go as high as terror. You following me? So from here, now we have pretty much where all of your prospects are. They're fear, anxiety, and they have a fear of worsening to some degree. I don't know what's going to happen if this continues. Now, that's most people when they come to a call. They might already be aware enough to know that they need to change, right? And so they might have some sort of a resentment towards a person or their situation. Or also, anybody ever get on a call with a bit of an angry prospect and they're doing undercut jabs at you in some way, shape, or form by a show of hands? Okay, this would be that covert hostility, the sarcasm, the passive aggressive. Oh no, you're the expert, motherfucker. You fix me. I've done all these other, I know how all that works, but like that type of bullshit, it's right there. Now, they know something needs to change, but they have so many bad past experiences that they can't see. They know they need to change, but they can't do something to make a change because every past experience in this area, because the mind loops it all together, is now just, they're parroting what the mind is telling them. It's not actually them. So remember, all of this is the mind. It's not the person, to be clear. They're separate, right? Just from the understand the mind section. It's not the real person. What you're doing on almost all of your interactions in a sales situation is you're not talking to the person themselves. You're talking to their mind. So you have to know how their mind works to raise them up this level of awareness. Otherwise, you're just going to think that it's about the script. And this is why scripts work, is you're pushing these buttons and you're making them aware of these levels. You're raising their awareness levels. And for example, somebody comes to a call. What happens? What's going on? This. What happens if that continues? I don't know. Why is it important to you now, though? I need to change now because of this. So we want them from fear of worsening to, I need to change this, right? And then we start getting them like, okay, why else do you need to change? Why now? Why now? Why not put it off for 5 more minutes? Why not put it off for another month? Why not just keep doing what you're doing? I got to do it now. And you do that long enough, they start to get a little fucking, you notice they start to get worked up. Right? If you do this right, they'll get worked up at the problem. If you do this wrong, they'll get worked up at you. Anybody ever experienced that? A client gets worked up at you? So all you got to do at that point is just acknowledge them and understand and say, hey, you got to get back on the same side of the table as them and be like, look, you and I both want the same thing, is to get, I'm as angry about this as you are, but let's make sure that we direct this anger appropriately and we direct it at situation that you don't like, situation you don't like, and situation that you don't like, rather than at each other. I'm on your team. What do you think about that? I think that sounds like a good idea. Great. So what else do you not like about this? That's all we're doing, is it's the same tone level. I don't want them not angry. I just want them angry at the problem, not at me. You following me? This is a huge fucking key here. Okay. That's how, for example, I can have like my tone level in general with people. I'm not like warm and fuzzy, obviously, right? Yet you all know you wouldn't be here, I think, unless you didn't know deep down that I genuinely wanted you to be in a better place as a result of being in my environment and working with me. Can you all feel that? Don't just give me lip service here, but raise your hand if you genuinely can feel that intention from me. Cool. Good. Because I don't know how else to lay it on fucking thicker without becoming a martyr. So from there, now when we get them into, I need to change, but I'll do it later, that's where I'll do it later. We're leaving them in a tone level of resentment, passive aggressive. That's where they're still talking shit. Maybe they're talking shit about other people that they're talking to, as, oh, I'm thinking of working with this other person. I've had people recently in the DMs that are like, I'm also considering other people. And I'm like, great, fucking hire that. I don't care. do whatever you want. I just don't care. And then they'll go and be like, I just paid this coach. And said, I've had a couple people send me a screenshot of them paying some other coach. And I'm like, I'm happy for you, dude. I don't fucking care. Congratulations. I don't want to work with you. I don't want that. You're going to be a fucking nightmare, but I'm happy for you. So they're still, though, stuck in this covert hostility, sarcasm, passive aggression. I'll let somebody else deal with that. The buying line is we want them aggressively antagonistic towards the fucking problem. And we need them demanding improvement. I don't care what it takes. I don't care how painful it is. I need to fix this. And if you tell me I got to set up Teddy and track my numbers and it's going to be painful, I'll fucking do it. That's why on all of our initiation calls, when it comes to setting up Teddy and setting up Monarch and doing the numbers and tracking, I know you all hate it. So what I've decided to do is instead of trying to make it easy, because it's not, I've done my best. I just tell you it's the worst fucking thing you'll ever do. You're going to hate every second of it. You're going to want to gouge your eyeballs out. And it's going to be fucking terrible. And you're going to want to stop the whole fucking time. But on the other side of that, you're going to get rich. You made a post in the community after you set up Teddy and you're like, bro, you weren't kidding. That was fucking terrible.
By the way, I use that line. I created a system to onboard that exact line. It's the worst fucking thing you're ever going to do.
Yeah. But on the other side of this, you're going to get fucking rich. Once you understand these awareness levels, you can play into them. Whereas what most people do, I think out of default and just the default like customer servicey type of a persona that people put on, you watch this fake, well, what we could do is fucking that type of hand-wringing energy. That's actually delusion because the process is painful. It should be painful because you're finally actually facing the reality of where you are and you've been lying to yourself. So the real pain is the fact that you're finally admitting that you've been lying to yourself and that you've been wrong this whole time. It's not the pain of the numbers on the screen. It's the pain of you actually going, fuck, damn it. I've known this the whole time. And all of you, to some degree with me, have expressed some variation of, I've always known this, but now I've just seen it differently or something like that. Show of hands if you've had that experience going through some of our shit in some way, right? The real reason that's painful is just as beings, we know that we've been lying to ourselves and we've been creating this unnecessary friction, and it's just the need to be right. The problem is, and this is where the saying comes, you can be right or you can be rich. It becomes very straightforward. And that's why there's not a whole lot of rich people, but there's a whole lot of right people, aren't there? A lot of righteousness out there. And so what we got to do is we got to face that reality. But that's where even you guys coming in as clients or even your clients and just most people are just living here and they want to keep their delusion. They want to keep living in the inactuality. They want to keep living in their fantasy land. And unfortunately, nothing's ever going to change. And the problem with people that are pretty fucking smart, like IQ smart, is the problem with smart people is they come up with smart people justifications. And they have really good fucking academic reasons to justify their current situation, why their situation is different. And it's remarkable. It's absolutely remarkable to watch. Just this, they're fully sold on the fact that, and this is a very common one in terms of, I'll just say objections or considerations. I don't handle objections anymore. I don't even try. If they're not sold, I don't care. I don't try. What I'll do though, is I do take whatever their considerations are and I will make content around it. And I will blast it in front of them with retargeting at an extremely high frequency to pound it into their fucking heads. And eventually they finally come back and they go, okay, like Isaac, your message to me, okay, bro, I think I'm ready for your coaching. Was there something that I think there was something that you saw or experienced at the time that, yeah, I'm giving you teases as to how all of this plays into profitability, leverage, efficiency. Because if you get the right people in the right mindset, you only need a lot of people and a lot of team and a lot of systems and a lot of shit if your people need a lot of hand holding and shit. But if you train your clients to not need anything aside from the great resources that you've created and play within the rules that you've created for your game, and you've made it clear what the rules of the game are, I can count on one hand this year the number of one-on-one, each of you get a one-on-one with me a month. I can count on one hand this year how many have been booked with me. So what I've learned is you guys want the ability to, but you don't really actually want to take the time to do it. That's totally fine with me. So My point is, once you understand these awareness levels and the actual real psychology of your market's going to be different than my market. So you have to, that's why you have to have these conversations and have that belly to belly type of even if it's virtual type of an interaction with people in order to really understand, oh, that's how they really fucking think. And if you see it enough, the people that are stuck anywhere from 30K to 200K a month, they're so sold on what they're working on is the right thing. And if they just finish it, on the other side of it is everything they ever wanted. They're so sold on it. The problem is they're not tracking. So they're working on all the wrong bottlenecks. They're working on what they feel like working. And then they're just really good at selling themselves and their team that this is the right thing to do. And they just speak with this delusional certainty that's laughable. Because when you actually look at the stats, their stats are down or flat. And if you were working on the right shit, you've heard Hormozy say this, if you're not making the progress that you want to make, you're working on the wrong shit. You're spending your time on the wrong shit. How do you know what the right shit is? It's not from what the ad says that you just saw. It's not from what the YouTube video is that you just saw. It's not even from what I say. It's not what you feel. What does the data say to do? That is the number one question that I ask, that every single one of you who's ever come to me with a question. I don't care what your question is, really. I'll take it into consideration. But before I even begin to think that that requires my answer, most likely, like 99 out of 100 questions that I ever get are the wrong fucking question. That's okay. It makes my job pretty easy, especially if we have accurate data. We can say, what does the data say to do? Perfect example. How many of you guys were on the Monday call where I did this with Harry, right? Harry comes to me. Love this guy. Shout out, Harry, if you're watching this. He's like, hey, I want you to review my offer. I just made a couple tweaks to this, that, and the other. And I'm like, okay, let's look at your stats. Everything leading up to, like, from top of funnel all the way till even close rate was like 67% for the month. Like every show rate was like 80 some odd percent. Just immaculate conversion rates, just perfect, just even slightly above immaculate. He wants an offer reviewed on a 64% close rate. Now, the cash collected rate was like, on revenue, on contracted revenue, cash collected rate, upfront cash was like 28%. I'm like, that's too fucking low. Why? The right question is, how do we collect more cash up front? Fuck your offer. People are buying your offer. They're saying yes at a clip of 64%. I'm like, are they good fits? He's, yeah, perfect. I'm like, you don't have an offer problem. I don't even need to look at it. I don't care. It's working. I don't care. But what I do want to see is, if they're perfect fits, why are they not giving you more money? Are you pitching a PIF? Oh no, we're just pitching the fucking payment option. And I'm just like, start pitching PIFs now. That's the only thing you change. You don't have to go off and tweak an offer, tweak any fucking else. Just the next calls that are had by either you or a team member, you say the full price and you shut the fuck up. And then you handle my financial objection handling thing in our sales system, and you rescript how, for you in your offer, how you're going to tell you what, I'll work out some deal for you as like an afterthought, and you customize a payment plan for them based on how much optimizing upfront cash. He would have gone off if I hadn't existed. He would have gone off in the next YouTube video that he saw about offers. He would have bought some fucking offer program. He could have gone off on all sorts of shit. And then got a brilliant idea about how he needed to add all these bells and whistles to it and shit. I don't know how, you can't quantify the opportunity cost of that activity, but that's like the majority of fucking people, especially in this industry, just asking all the wrong questions, not able to identify the right bottlenecks. Now, what's awesome is that makes my job easy. I avoided a whole offer review. I didn't even have to look at it, because when you ask the right questions, you create enormous amounts of leverage. If you ask the wrong questions, you create an enormous amount of work and headache. You guys see that? So most of you who have inefficient shit and it feels like a slog, you're probably asking the wrong questions. The primary question that I suggest you ask, it's your life, you can design it however the fuck you want, but what I ask every single day, despite how I feel, is what does the data say to do today? What does the data say to do this month? And that is how I've progressively, like the funnel that I'm going to walk you guys through, I've never seen anybody else run it. I invented a whole new weird fucking deal. Craig is the only guy who probably knows like the underpinnings of exactly how it all works and whatever. Have you ever seen anybody else run a weird ass fucking, even my DM strategy funnel? Not really. Have you ever seen anybody, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm saying optimizing for the button clicks with the URL Genius link with JavaScript to make sure it opens an Instagram to, okay. Leading with an SLO that only, I saw, by the way, did you see the post that Alan Sultanic made about how the person who can lose money the best on the front end wins?
Yeah.
I feel a little bit better after that, but because I only liquidate 30% of my ad spend on the book funnel.
That's what we're talking, yeah, his example.
It was simple, it was basically that. Anyway,
Fast, essentially.
I digress. When you know how to understand how to diagnose bottlenecks and what the what the psychology is behind releasing that bottleneck, because releasing any bottleneck is psychology, right? So if the guy isn't pitching PIFs, it's because he probably has some sort of a fear around that, or he just didn't know any better. If he knew better and he's not doing it, we just got to clear the fear so we can actually confidently pitch PIFs. If he didn't know better, now he does. And if you can execute on what the data says to do without clearing shit, knock your socks off. But we first have to establish, what does the data say to do? And then from there, when you diagnose the bottleneck, it's all just psychology. That's what changes conversion rates. So once we understand the psychology behind where our prospects are at each stage, now we can say the right things to them at that stage that moves them to the next stage, and so on and so forth. You guys see? We need the data and we need the psychology to make the numbers better. Cool? Everybody good on that? Any questions on that? I know I went totally not according to plan, but that's pretty much how it goes here. Everybody good on that?
Solid.
Okay, cool. So let's go back to here. Keeping it this simple, this is how everything goes. And the more streamlined we can make it, this is what your funnel should be. At the end with that green fucking check mark, that's profit, right? All the KPIs that lead back to that red X is top of funnel. Everything is just a sequence of steps to get from point A to point B. You just have to very clearly define them and not be delusional about that and not define them from a place of delusion. That's so fucking key. And then we just follow that little line. Cool. So most people have no track. The way that we get off track once it's established is if we have a fear. I don't want to pitch PIFs. Oh, I don't want to do that strategy. I don't want to do that over here. Oh, no. And I don't want to look at the numbers. So I'm just going to veer off here. The weather looks nicer over there. That's literally how people are doing stuff. And the people that don't, like you, I'm pointing out people that are rigidly, like this clicked. I remember when this clicked for you, specifically the conversation that we had was this was probably like fucking 4 years ago at this point. But we had a conversation where you were, I don't know what revenue level you were at, but I do know that you were spending like $300 a day on ads. You remember this conversation?
Yeah.
Do you remember how it went? Do you want to tell?
I remember exactly, but it was an easy understanding of just spend more time.
Yeah. So we did the math and I just don't know how to double this business, how to triple this business. How do I get to the next level? And I'm just like, let's look at your fucking dashboard and see what the data says to do. And it says here, Justin, you need to spend $927 a day on ads, and you've been spending $300. Why are you not spending $927 a day? And do you remember what you said?
It's probably like I'm scared or something. I don't want to lose money.
He said, I've never spent $927 a day on ads. I'm like, cool, fucking go and edit that ad budget. I don't know if you had to clear anything on it. I forget that part, but I do remember. You're like, oh, that was a huge like unlock. You're like, whoa, yeah. And then he goes and you probably just duplicated the ad set or just upped the budget. And within 30 days, I know it at least doubled. My memory says it tripled, but that could just be me smoking my own exhaust too.
We doubled like every month after that.
Yeah. Once that clicked for you and you're like, oh, this is way easier than that.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to know what the track is. And if he had a fear of that, I don't want to waste money on ads, which is like in everybody who runs ads. Nobody wants to waste money on ads. Newsflash. But those who actually make money with ads spend what's required. So you need the inputs required to get your outputs desired. If you're not doing the inputs required, don't expect your outputs desired. Now, most people think that their inputs need to be more. You're probably fucking right. But until you know exactly how much more, which is what the Teddy Goals calculator tells you to do, and our little profit calculators, and I got more shit that tells you exactly based on your historical data, You need to do this activity that you can control each day in order to hit this output goal. And then you fucking hit it. And if it's impossible for you alone to hit it, there's a number of different levers that we can pull, which we'll talk about that later. But you just have to do the inputs that are required. Most people don't take the time to know what are required. They're just like, I know I need to do a lot more, and I just can't get myself to do it. Fucking lame as that. Just know, and then do what's required. Magic happens. So those are ways that we can pull ourselves off track. And so obviously we call that being mentally drunk. Then we can get pulled off track by a shiny object and be mentally coked up. This would be all of you. Now, I said this in the disclaimers of my last 2 workshops on how self-closing clients and propaganda machine. I'm like, most of you probably shouldn't try to model me at all. It's probably going to be a big, expensive waste of time for you. And I'll explain to you why. But this is what an easier way. Let's go do that. And they stop doing what's working for them. And they wonder why they end up 60 days later, 20,000 more in debt and more frustrated than ever. Is because they got pulled off track by the illusion and delusion that the grass is greener on the other side. It's not. It never is. There's equal suck at every level, at every business model. There is an equal amount of suck and annoyance at like my business model with a team of basically 2.5 and your business model with a team of 25. There's equal amounts of suck. And so first, I would invite all of you to stop trying to make it not suck. You've heard Jocko Willink say, maybe embrace the suck. I don't know if it's him or Goggins or whatever, but I'm not saying to become a hustle porn influencer. What I am saying is if you're willing to have things be terrible, usually they're not so bad, which is why my pre-frame of going and setting up your fucking tracking of saying it's going to be the absolute worst thing you've ever done in your entire life, you're like, oh, okay. And then when it's like, not, and you survive, you're like, that wasn't that. Like you just went through it. You just went through it, years of backdating. How was your experience?
Those 5 years was very,
Yeah.
and I was very mad at myself.
Yep. Good.
Clear that.
Yep. Yeah. But now we know what reality is. And now we're clear on what Jamie's success formula is that we can then build on, document, and run our playbook. So I'm building my playbook for running this model, which is why since I started catching some traction, really like just in the last 100 days, each of the last months has been bigger and better than the previous, is because I've just went back and looked and built my record month formula, my playbook. And although there are things that are enticing out there, if your playbook works and you're not running it, you're a fucking idiot. And you're being blinded. You're being blinded by the infatuations out there. The road trip analogy, if we're using the map analogy, it's, world's largest ball of milk. Let's go off this exit, kids. Kids, your forefathers. Anyway, any National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation fans? Just me? Cool. Oh, good. See, that's why we're married. Hey, what are you doing after this? All right. So those are 2 ways that we can get pulled off track. But first, we need to know what the track is. Anyway, so the components of this. We need to know the destination. This is the wealth accumulation number. It's not fucking 400K a month or $1 million a month or 100 grand a month. It's an accumulation number. The freedom number is the number that you can accumulate in liquidity, that you can draw down 4% of it and live your ideal lifestyle, even if your coaching business shits the bed or whatever business you got, where what you're doing becomes totally optional. There's a way to reverse engineer what this number is for you. You have to find out how you want to live, price it out. What's it going to cost? And then you're going to reverse engineer what are the KPIs in the business need to be in order to fucking hit those targets. And you'll be able to predict with a very high degree of accuracy when you'll be at that number. Many people at the trajectory that they're on will have to be working in their business until they're fucking dead because of the trajectory that they're on. The good news is I did a workshop called the Wealthy Coach Workshop, where I created the Wealthy Coach tool that all of you have fucking access to, that I would highly recommend you go and do that so that you know what that trajectory looks like for you. Hint, you're going to probably be depressed based on your current trajectory, just the way it is. The good news is it's changeable. The challenging news is You're not nearly as far along as you wish you were. I'm sorry, but I can't do anything about that aside from just remind you and show you the actual numbers. And that's what that tool is designed to do. The good news is that tool also will allow you to know exactly what's required so that you can stop kidding yourself into thinking that your pussyfoot tiptoe activity level is going to come anywhere near getting you to where you say you want to go. This is what you've done incredibly well. And anybody who this is what anybody who's gotten to a next level has done incredibly well. There are no exceptions to this. So it makes it pretty fucking cut and dry. Yeah.
I will say, I think the thing that, to your point, what you were doing, I remember doing that too. And I backdated a year, which I thought was the most frustrating fucking thing on the planet. But that was probably the biggest ROI I've ever done in my life.
You better tell me more about that. Why, Justin?
It just got me on track. Like you said, it got me the GPS to understand where I need to go. But
Yep.
like going through, that was in the Mint days where I remember you told me, you're like, you're going to hate this, do it. And I was like, dude, fuck this. But I was so pissed off after, I just never went back to that.
Yep. Good. There you go. You heard it here first, folks. All right. So we have the destination. That's a real destination. If you don't have that defined, guess what? You can't reverse engineer a track. And if you can't reverse engineer a track, guess what? You can't make your first move. You won't know what move to make. And the problem and the trap that everybody gets sucked into is, no, I know my first move. I'll create my track when I've done this stupid fucking bullshit that I've convinced myself I need to do. That's what they do. And then I watch them do it. And then they come back to me weeks, months, years later going, oh, I'm doing the same fucking song. I'm like, I told you, bitch. Like, I don't say this because I like to hear it. I don't even like to hear it. Believe me. Oh, between all of us, I don't like that this is the case either. I wish it was faster and easier and less numbers too. I'm not a numbers person, but there's no other alternative, so I do it. The alternative is to be stressed and hope and wishing and crossing your fingers. If y'all are cool with that strategy, ignore this and keep doing whatever the fuck it is that you're doing. If you're not, go through the dark midnight data backdating of death and then come out on the other side a rich man or woman. Something to think about. Okay. Then we have the vehicle that's actually going to get us there. So once we know, I'll go back to my golfer friend. So he comes to me, he's got like 100 some odd thousand followers on Instagram, but they're like general golfers from around the world. It's not like a huge affluent buyer's audience. And he's like, how do I monetize this? Should I launch like an ebook or some bullshit? And I'm just like, wrong question. You see how short-sighted that question is? And he doesn't know. So it's like a general noob question. It's fine. I'm like, wrong question. First, we have to decide, how do you want to live? Why do you want to live that way? And know, how much money do you got to make first? Then we look at what, if I want to make $1 million a year and I have a $1 ebook, I got to sell 1 million of them a year at 100% profit. If it's a 50% profit, I got to sell 2 million. Is it viable that I could sell 2 million golf ebooks in a year with my current audience and skill set? How about no? Okay, nice. I did that for Albie and Melissa. So then the other option is, okay, you have one client that pays you $1 million a year at 100% profit. To keep math super simple. How viable is that? Probably not. So somewhere in there is a sweet spot of a price point, a target audience, and a skill set that needs to be matched so that he can actually make what he wants to make in the way he wants to make it. So you see what should I launch? What type of course should I create? Wrong question. Right question is, how much do you actually need to make to live the life you want to live? And then it starts to narrow our options pretty quick. If you don't want to work with people in person and you want it to be this leveraged, yeah, see you will be out and like sales will happen. He's like, I want that. I'm like, I bet you do. But I'm like, yeah. So if you want that, then in-person stuff is out of the question. And now it becomes, what can we sell that probably will make us enough profit so that we can live the way that we want to live, or at least have a trajectory that will move us closer and closer to that over time. So it's like most of your audience being like generic beginning fucking golfers, or he's, what is he, 30? I don't know. Most of his audience is like younger than him, coming up, playing golf. He's a pro, he's great. And so it's like college kids, what are they going to spend on? right? People who are young professionals who play golf or some shit. Or how about mini tour pros that are really good, but they're playing in mini tour events trying to make it on tour, all of whom are not an affluent buying audience. So we got, and I don't have a conclusion to this. I'm like, before you start getting excited about an idea or a thing that you're going to do, you got to understand the business end of this, because all of you are really good at delivering probably what the fuck you do. The problem is that's 1% of it. The business skills that make up the 99% of it that actually monetize it in a way that you want are what everybody just, I'm good at what I do. I should just be good at what I do and it should happen. It doesn't work that way. So you guys see the thought process of that's how we need to engineer our businesses so that we can make what we want to make, doing what we don't want to do, living how we want to live. All that takes math, period. I don't care who you are. Does that make sense, you guys? Okay, cool. So we need to engineer our vehicle that's going to get us there, right? So if I say I want to traverse the Sahara Desert, but I really want to do it in a fucking Lamborghini Huracan, that's not going to work. That's a vehicle that's not going to get you to where you want to go. So you have two options. You either change the vehicle or change how you want to, where you want to drive it. You see? Now our options of what levers to pull, because we're designing this framework for our lives, the levers that we pull become more obvious, at least what our options are, right? Then we need the tracking system to make sure that we're on track. The speed is the monthly income that gets us closer to our destination faster. But I bet if you went out on I-75 right now and said, I'm going to go 500 miles an hour, which is pretty much what everybody wants to do in this fucking industry, for just arbitrarily, I just want to go faster than the other guy. That's reckless. Would you agree? I just want to go fast. Ricky Bobby. That's what people are doing. And how many of you guys know somebody or have heard of somebody who's doing 500K, $1 million a month, 2 million a month, that first of all, they don't like their life and they don't have much profit left over and they're stressed the fuck out. Anybody hear of somebody like this by a show of hands? Yeah. So speed, everybody thinks is a goal. It's not. In order for me to hit all of my goals, all I need is 150K a month after tax profit. So in order to do that, it's pretty straightforward. I need 100 to 110 boardroom members at 2K a month. Yeah. Oh, remind me about the aquarium thing. I have potentially our next expansion. What's that? No, I just have pictures. So anyway, my point is what you think your goal is, in order to live how you want to live, you probably don't need as much as you think you need. So just as an FYI, I don't know. I would also just make sure you, like, for me to live exactly ideal lifestyle, it's 80 grand a month. And now we just got to make double that in net after tax profit, which is 160. In order to do that, gross about 220, 230 at the 80% margin rate on a recurring basis. And if I liquidate 30% on the front end and I have a hyper efficient, my book funnel attracts largely the right people to feed my retargeting audience. I don't need a huge audience. I only need 100 to 150-ish motherfuckers in here. Like I'm only trying to get 150 sales, but I've engineered the vehicle in a way to where those 150 sales are very leveraged sales. So we'll talk about that, but that's what I mean about engineering your business vehicle to where it fits how you want to live at your end destination, not just the model that somebody else is doing because they're doing it. You see how that's different, right? This is a key here. This is how you stop copy and pasting other people's models and start engineering shit, because you understand the frameworks and how to build them. And then you can plug and play mechanisms, because mechanisms will change every 2 fucking seconds. But if you understand the fundamentals, now you can understand how to design your business vehicle in a way that you like. You just have to give yourself permission to do that and actually take the time to sit down and fucking design it. Then the speed is how fast are you going there, right? I don't want 150. I don't want to onboard 150 people this month. I don't want to do it, right? But 10 to 15 a month with not a whole lot of fucking trying, and everybody comes in, okay, I already bought, I'm ready to go, just tell me what to do. And then I just tell you, don't be a pain in my ass. And you agree, like it's great. So you can do it. Then the fuel efficiency is the profit margin and the effort. So how much effort does it take to generate that $1 million or the $100,000 or whatever it is you're trying to generate, right? As you get better at understanding the psychology of how things go at each stage, you can improve your efficiency. The only way to get good at the psychology, this goes back to your point, which was replacing yourself in the cadence of it. I'm still a very huge proponent for the reason of I don't know anybody who's mega successful who doesn't also operate this way, of figuring out how to do every fucking part of it yourself to where it's dialed the fuck in, and then you delegate it. Otherwise, you're abdicating, which means basically here you figure it out, and then you pay somebody way too much. They can't figure it out because they're retarded and they don't believe in you because you haven't demonstrated the ability to actually know what the fuck you're doing because you haven't taken the time to figure it the fuck out because you've convinced yourself that there's more important shit to do. So for you right now, like we had Isaac, I'm like, fire your fucking setter. Like you can have a setter who does 300 outbound a day to book 3 calls because elite quality is shit, and convince yourself that's like just the way it is and how your market is. Or you can really take a few months and get fucking legendary at it. That this, especially on the sales and marketing side of things, nobody wants to, I'm in the DMs all the time. Oh, please, somebody else take it. It's like, they suck. They're going to suck. They're not going to care about your business anywhere near as much as you do. How many of you guys have experienced hiring somebody who fucking sucks on the sales or setting side? Okay, that's because you're trying to avoid it. And that which you avoid, you keep bringing to you. So if you take a few months or a few weeks, however fast you are, and you just get every single scenario thrown at you, and you meticulously craft how that scenario goes in a way that makes it go the way you want it to go, i.e. handling objections and answering questions. And that's scripted to where you could hand it off to a fucking retard and they could do it. Now you're ready. Now you're ready to hand it off, and see how all the pressure goes off the hiring process. Because if I can make it to where a retard could run my business, it's a pretty good business. McDonald's is a perfect example of this. 16-year-old retards run that business. That's a good business. So how? That's because somebody, Ray Kroc, took the time to go and figure out how to engineer what does the interior need to do, where does everything need to be, and he fucking sat there and did it until he's like, this is dialed. All I got to do, let's plug in this moron and see if he can do it. Everybody that I know who's really rich and good at this shit did that, knows how to do it all. And that's why, and here's the rub of this industry specifically, it's internet marketing. You just got to understand how the game works. Here's a hint. Anybody ever seen an ad or been on a webinar that's, I spent all this money and all this trial and error and went through all this hardship so that you don't have to, and I can just copy and paste my fucking foolproof system? Anybody ever seen that type of a headline? Guess who's saying those headlines? The people who have gone through all the shit to figure it out themselves are the rich people. The poor suckers that go into debt are the people who are like, I don't want to do that because I'm better than that. And my ego says I should just be in delivery and fulfillment. Fuck you. Get over yourself. Just get over yourself. You're going to have to face that truth at some point. So good on you, good on everybody in this room for just understanding that's the deal. The good news is the way out is the way through. So if you want out of that, you figure it the fuck out, SOP it like a big boy or girl, and you own that shit. That way, you get to do this. You get to either hire a setter, and you'll know exactly how to handle everything they ever come to you. And you'll have it all SOP'd, so as long as they can fucking read and copy and paste, they can set calls. You'll know exactly what the conversion rate should be based on this lead flow and this type of prospect for your offer. And you'll be able to spot out points instantly, making their performance at least within KPI, if not better. Same with closing. Your sales team will, in my experience, never close more than about half of what you can close. I've seen this be a good general rule of thumb. So if you, as the offer owner, the head honcho, the person who created this shit, if you have a 20% close rate and you want to hire a closer, they're going to close at 10%. And guess what happens when they close at 10%? Your business gets cut in half, and you're paying another 10% in commission to them at least So your take home gets cut not only in half, but by about 60% instantly. And then they're going to not close deals and you're going to be like, this guy sucks. No, you fucking suck. You guys see how this works? And now guess what happens if you do this thousands of times and you get really fucking good at it? You get to engineer systems that handle the psychology of this without a setter or a closer, and you get to get people to close themselves. But guess how you get good at the psychology? Is you have hundreds of setting conversations, you have hundreds of sales situations, and you hear fucking everything you could possibly hear and know exactly how they think at every single level, so you can engineer a way to convert them without being there. That's the only way to make it good. There's no other way to make it good. The good news is, once you accept that as truth and you stop trying to avoid it, you can get that done in a relatively reasonable period of time. So remember I said to you, the next 90 days is going to be really fucking aggressive. The good news is it's going to stack you a bunch of cash and you're going to have all of this ready to hand to somebody and be like, here's the success recipe and here's the math to help you earn your commissions. If you don't have that, you have no business hiring somebody. I don't care what stupid fucking training program they've been through and how hard that gets touted. Anybody ever hire, we'll place a setter for you, we'll place a closer for you, and they fucking suck? Anybody ever have that experience? Yeah, but they went through the certificate. They're certified though. They went through the whole fucking dick. It's bullshit. The good news is, once you know that, you can stop drinking the fucking infatuation Kool-Aid and actually be an adult and figure your shit out. It's not hard. Just people want to avoid everything and stay in their delusional fucking sphere. So if we understand all these other parts, now we just need to make sure that the driver, your mental performance, you're fucking seeing reality and you're seeing clearly and you're understanding that every model sucks in its own way. I've probably wasted at least $100,000 this year on ad stuff that didn't work and models that didn't work, not to mention the opportunity cost. I'll just say, figured out what I figured out recently earlier this year, I'd have made this room would be 10 times bigger, but I didn't, whatever. But I didn't, I know it's physically possible and I'm not going to bitch out because I'm just mad. I told you, I said, you'll know when I figure this out when fucking more people just start magically showing up. I'm going to figure it out. I'll keep you posted along the way. Is that not what I said this conversation in January, March, and in July in Michigan? Because once it's figured out, you just have to have your shit together and not be like, oh, I guess it doesn't work. The temptation for me to just be like, I know I could just book these motherfuckers on calls and close them on PIFs. The problem is the way when people get closed that way, if they have to be closed, this is another efficiency leverage thing. I'm hoping you're somehow tying how all this fits into these points, because it does. When you have a closer that has to close somebody, there's nothing wrong with this. But what it does is it creates this, okay, you closed me, here's my money, prove it, bitch situation. And if you don't handle that immediately during or following the closing conversation, you're going to want to punch your clients in the fucking head. A short-term fix, like for you, I'm thinking of you in this case, yeah, I close all these clients, but I want to fucking shoot myself. Cool. In a situation where you need cash, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. But what you can add is a real quick thing is like, now, after you've taken payment, they've signed agreement, now I want to set expectations very fucking clearly with you. Here's exactly how this goes, and there are no exceptions to this if you want actually the result you said. I don't want any of this. There's none of that. Here's the rules. It's all written out. Just want to make sure that we're good on those rules. Now, they're going to be on their buying high, and they're just going to agree. And every time they give you a fucking bullshit thing, you remind them of the fucking rules. And you make that part of the agreement. So as something as simple as that, the client expectation, you need a whole bunch of support coaches and support staff if your clients have been framed to believe they need a bunch of hand-holding. Or you reconfirmed their existing belief, which everybody thinks they need it all done for them and hand-holding. That's how they're all coming in. That's how all of you motherfuckers came into my universe. And then I sold you on the idea that no, you don't. In fact, that's hurting you. And now how many of you guys see that it actually is hurting you by having that belief system, by a show of hands? Anybody believe that belief system is better for you? I didn't see all the hands go up. Okay. I'm open. I just haven't seen any exceptions to this rule, which is why I'm still sold on this idea. Haven't seen it work any other way. So your clients only need hand-holding if you sell them on the idea that or pander into their existing belief that they need a bunch of support and stuff. But if you sell them on the idea that they don't need support, then you don't need a bunch of support staff. Now, to be clear, you better have really good fucking resources and really know what the fuck you're doing in order to do that. So all the tools that I've built and stuff that I point you to, those have been very meticulously crafted, and I continue to craft them and reinforce them based on your feedback and what I see your end result is after. Do a thing, let me know, let's look. Did that do the thing? If not, let's tweak it until it did, to where I know I have a resource where I can go, after 3 words about you opening your mouth, I say no more, fam, do that. Next. Really leveraged. I don't need any hand holders. Not that you can't scale a business with a big organization that is a hand holding business, to be clear. There are businesses that, quote, work that way. My personal, and this is just me, you do whatever you want with all this information. My personal philosophy is I don't want to do that. And I have enough of the skill sets and enough of the experience with the psychology of my target audience to have the at least plausible hypothesis that I can pull this off in this way that I'm doing it. So just to be clear, this isn't to like shit on that model. It's just, I don't personally, I would rather the suck of needing to launch new creative and get better at YouTube videos than the suck of wiping a fucking closer's tears and reselling him on the fact that he can be somebody in this lifetime. Like they both suck. They're both annoying. They both can be stressful. I just prefer the one that I have more direct control over, and I try to control as many variables as I can. And human beings are variables that are really challenging to control, as I'm sure you've noticed. But there are some really great people out there that can do really great stuff. But just every story that I've heard that was, I'm going to delegate this to somebody else who's better than me. I'm going to hire him. And then they do. It ends up being a fucking dumpster fire unless the communication is outstanding and the person hiring that person, like in your guys' dynamic, you and Alec, you know how to do everything that Alec knows how to do and better. No offense. But that's the only reason also that Alec, you respect and follow Justin as your leader. Because if you were better than Justin at all this shit, and he hadn't proven that without a shadow of a doubt, you would not have the respect required to play the role that you play in that dynamic. You see how that works?
Yeah.
So Justin had to go first, follow in that mold. And if you structure the relationship where both of you can get what you want, it works. So I'm not shitting on it totally. We have a living example here, but just the thought process, I'm trying to do everything I can to create leverage so that I don't have to introduce that variable unless there's no other option. I'm willing to do it. I just believe there's lots of options for me and my model that I want to build. And I believe a lot of you have components of this too. Y'all have a lot of options before you just throw more people at it. Because that becomes a very expensive and stressful and annoying situation if you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Make sense, you guys? Okay. Last but not least, this little middle piece here, my AAA analogy. You need somebody to call who is aware of your destination, how your vehicle works, what your GPS says. This is why when there's Navy SEALs on a mission, there's somebody at Mission Control that watches every fucking move they make, their goddamn health vitals and everything. They know their GPS location and they know exactly how to run the mission themselves. So that when Navy SEALs are like in the middle of fucking gunfire and they're like, shit, what do we do, Sarge? Sarge knows what the fuck to say and it works. The problem with this industry, as I see it anyway, is that the lifelines that people are hiring or getting as mentor, guru, whatever variable you want to throw in there, don't have their shit together, don't know what they're doing, and they can't guide worth shit because they don't know what they're like. It's the blind leading the blind, the drunk leading the drunk. And so that's what causes all these poor. How many of you ever had a bad, less than ideal experience in some fucking program where you found out that the person leading the thing didn't know what the fuck they were doing? Actually, give me your hand. All right, cool. You need a lifeline and you need to know how to choose them. Most people don't. They choose people based on, oh, you have an offer question? I have an offer. How do I track? Oh, you don't need to track. Just the offer will sell itself. Get to that later. There's so many, it's unbelievable. So it is the blind leading the blind. Without understanding these 7 components, I believe it's fucking impossible. So most coaches, reactive driving, vehicles broken, they're flapping around here. So there's a red, you can't even see it. Vague fucking, I'm here and I want to go there. That's what everybody's doing. It's fucking stupid, especially when it's solvable. The only reason they don't do it is because they're like, no, I know better. Stupid. So this is what it's happening in this industry. So anyway, the opposite of that, we just went over. We want to make sure that we have these fucking components here, and you can't have a successful road trip without them. You can't get from point A to point B without them. So that is where this stands right now in terms of a model. Al, be paying attention to this one because this is that shit you didn't watch that I told you to fucking watch. Good. I just want to make sure that you're going to have to go back and waste 20 more minutes to watch the replay of this. Hashtag leverage and efficiency. Pay attention to what the fuck you're doing right now, and you don't have to go over it 87 times. I can't tell you, by the way, how much without having your finances set up, everybody avoided you took a couple days, right? Everybody avoids the couple days. I don't have time for that. I got to do all this other stuff. Guess what? All that other stuff you don't need to do. So that's a waste of time. And it's impossible to measure the crazy opportunity cost because of your wasting time. Not only that, you still don't have accurate fucking optics and metrics. And you go years with this operating basis telling yourself, I just don't have time. I'm too busy for that. Holy fuck. If you do it right the first time, you don't have to do it again. Nobody wants to take the time to do it right the first time because they don't care. They think somebody else should do it. And so they have to do it over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then they try to delegate some incomplete piece of shit because they never had any time. You have time. You're wasting a hilariously sad amount of time with all the shit that you're doing that you've convinced yourself that you need to do, when if all you did was be very thorough with the thing the first fucking time, you don't have to do it again. I created that Bulletproof Mind system 5 years ago. It took me 3 months to create. Whoa, you should have just hired somebody to do it. There's more important things for you to do. Is there? Because that creates a lot of leverage for me. Because guess what? I don't have to talk through any bullshit with you. I can say, just go clear charge on it. And you do. And it works. That's leverage. See? Took 3 months to create. Teddy, lots of time to create. Arguably years. But now I can just say, hey, go do this. It's going to suck. But on the other side of it, you're going to double your business pretty fucking fast. And now we have accounts of people sitting in this room that not only doubled their business, but 18,000 a month when, there's a thing called tracking. That sounds smart. To fucking 400K, become a liquid millionaire. High five. Your allocation of time and what you think is important is probably hilariously off. But that's why we ask the one simple question. Anybody remember what the primary question that we should all be asking ourselves at the beginning of every single day is? That's what's up. That's it. And then we just need to make sure that when we check in with somebody and we ask that person who's our advisor, that they're also understanding what is it they do. So anyway, is there anything else on here? Yeah. How's this for a split between the two roads? I'll go back here. So this checklist, this was from one of our last workshops. I survey everybody in the beginning of a workshop. I asked them on each of these areas to rate scale of 1 to 5. How would you rate yourself? And then I asked them to give me what was your last 30 days cash collected. So this last workshop we did, I think we had 80 people buy tickets or some shit. So 80 surveys. The average people who attended this workshop, 48,000 a month. So they're not complete morons, right? This is how they rated themselves on a scale of 1 to 10 on this checklist. And I just turned the scale of 1 to 5 into a percentage so that we could see an aggregate. That's not good. And so I asked them, I don't know if it's on this presentation, I said, if you're going to send your family on a road trip and the person who's driving has a checklist, and this should be the checklist, you want to make sure they're sober, they know where they're going, the vehicle is worthy of making the trip, they have a GPS, they're going at proper speed, they don't have to stop for gas every 3 minutes, and they make sure that you have somebody to call if something happens. Are those not the 7 components of what you would want to make sure if you wanted your family to get to point B safely? Okay. So if you said, hey, driver or chauffeur guy, how would you rate yourself in each of these areas? And he came up with a total of 54%. Would you let your family go on that trip with him? No. Why not? Why is it risky? And why would that be bad? There you go. This is a cross section of how this industry is at the moment, which is why I do what I do and why nothing works without these 7 components. This isn't like my way. This is how y'all do shit that works in life. The other analogy I used is if you were going to go on a flight and you looked in the cockpit and you and your family, you're taking your family on a wonderful trip to wherever the fuck. I believe that wherever the fuck is in Cabo. Right? You're going to wherever the fuck and you look in the cockpit and you're like, yo, y'all do checklists and shit, right? Pre-flight checklists. Y'all still do that on that program? Still, I know there's a government shutdown and whatever, but y'all are still doing checklists, pre-flight checklists, right? Yes. Cool. What percentage of the items have you checked off your list before this flight? He's, oh, we're good. 54%. What would you do? Would you get on the flight? Oh, crash. This is how people are this is how people are operating, and they're going, this is different. And they're thinking they're getting away with these justifications to themselves, and all they're doing is hurting themselves. They're hurting their team because their team, get this, if you want to attract A players are going to know if you have a 54% checklist or a fucking 100% checklist. They know how to sniff that shit out. And so if you are a 54% checklist and you're going, I'm just going to hire the experts. Why the fuck would an expert want to come work for your lame ass? Why? For what benefit? They know better than you. And if they do, you'll have to pay them this much. You'll have to give them at least half your company to make it even close to being worth their while. And even if you gave them the whole company, they'll be like, I'm just going to go build my own shit. Fucking wipe the floor with you. That's what they'll do. That's how you attract A players and create leverage. You become a fucking A player, and A players do not have a 54% checklist. They just don't. And so what happens is, yeah, not your fault. This is my fucking, it isn't though, because everybody sold you on the vehicle because that's what you think you want and need. That's great. But I can give you a battle tank and you're hammered drunk and you don't know where you're going. You're going to kill yourself in probably a fucking small village. And you're going to go, what happened? It's the tank's fault. I need a new tank. Fuck. So here's what happens to these fucking people. This is Canva, by the way. Pretty cool. Yeah, I do. I had fun with that. Anyway, that's where I'm at with what we do for a fucking living here. And I thought it was important to spend a decent amount of time on that because we can go into all this stuff. But if you forget that shit I just said, you're fucked. You guys see that? You're just fucked. So when in doubt, what does the data say to do? And then this type of stuff is what's designed to move those KPIs. That's it. You got to know what those KPIs are, what those turns are, so that we can actually make them. And then with that foundation, now we can actually do something. But without it, y'all are fucked. And I can't tell you, I should have just saved all these like voice notes and like messages that I've gotten over the years where I say this shit, whether it's to a client who left because they knew better, or a prospect, or even a team member. I've had team members give me voice notes months later, literally crying. I've had this happen. The amount of warnings that I've given people is just like exhausting, or can be. But most people need to fuck up for a while. That's why there's a top 1%. That's fine. But the volume of warnings that I've given people, and they take this and go, yeah, but, is, I don't know how much clearer or more persuasive I can make it. But when you finally, it clicks for you and you have this dark night of the fucking backtracking data moments, like all of you in this room who have gone through that have had, on the other side of it is everything that you fucking want. And that's just how it fucking goes. And so it's funny, back to my golfer friend, I love this guy. He's one of my best friends. He's also committed to his way of thinking, and rightfully, he's a smart, talented kid, but gave me some pushback. And he said we had a recent conversation that was, I won't say it was heated, but it was lively. And he's, that's just your way. And I'm like, no, I wish this was just my way. But that's saying I dropped this marker of gravity. So that's just your belief. Prove me that's not happening, and I'm totally open to changing my belief. So if somebody can prove to me that this is just my way and that there's other ways that actually work of getting something from point A to point B successfully, I'm totally open. I just have yet to have somebody bring that to me and go, here's definitive proof that proves that there's a totally other viable way outside of magic and luck. That is another strategy. You can hope real hard, and sometimes people do get lucky, to be clear, like that. So if you want to rely on guessing, hoping, and luck, that is one strategy. That's, I think, the only alternative. Does anybody immediately see some other alternatives to this that works? Get a center. Yeah, make sure they come from the fucking certified program too. Free up hours every day. So this isn't my way. I'm just studying like what works and applying it and trying to narrow it down to what are the fundamental pieces of it. And there are no exceptions to this. You need all 7 components to get from point A to point B. The good news is knowing that, even if I was wrong and there are other ways, if you'd have found them, you wouldn't be here. So you can either waste a whole bunch of time trying to search for an easier, faster, funner, softy, fucking high-fivey way of doing it, or you can just do what fucking works, and it works. So this isn't, I'm not married to, this is just what happens. I didn't invent this. I'm just like trying to uncover it and explain it in a way that you actually get it and actually apply it. Because those who ignore this, what happens, especially in this industry, and I think it's a decent time for a short break. What happens in this industry, unfortunately or fortunately, is people hear this. They know deep down that, and I'm putting myself in a prospect shoes who hasn't gone, oh yeah, that makes sense. They hear this, they basically go do something else. And it's such a status lowering admission to come back and say you're right to anyone. Have you guys ever been like in an argument with somebody, realized you're wrong, and then went back to say, you're fucking right, I was wrong and I was an asshole? Anybody ever been in that situation? Doesn't feel awesome. People want to avoid that because, again, the number one desire for humans is to be right. When everyone fears being wrong, especially when you have to admit being wrong, especially in an industry filled with egotistical fucking experts that know everything and spend their lives preaching on social media that they've got it all figured out when deep down they know they don't. Now you have this recipe for just confirmation bias out the ass, and all they're doing is reconfirming their delusion over and over and over again, so heavy to where they may never get out of it until something really jars them out of it, like a very severe financial setback, or in some cases, like people die and shit, you know what I mean? Like those wake up call moments. My hope is it doesn't have to get that severe for any of you to actually do something about it. And we can understand that this is where doesn't have to get worse before it gets better. But in order to go up this levels of awareness, we have to admit that we're being delusional. We have to really look at what happens if you keep being delusional. How much are you wasting? What is it costing you to be delusional and operate on the reality that isn't, and make decisions based on, that's all people are doing, is they're making decisions based on false data. And they're wondering if the person thinking they're in Texas, but they're really in Oregon and they're trying to get to New York. If you think you're in Texas, yet you're in Oregon, right? Here's that map. Okay, Texas. You think you're here, you're actually here. How's that? You like that? So you're actually here. You think you're here. Your goal is to get to here. If I ask for the directions from Texas to New York and I apply them, but I'm in Oregon, I'm going to end up here. And that's what people do. They apply all these things that they convince themselves make fucking sense, whether it's hiring a setter, doing an ad strategy, whatever it is. And they're applying the wrong thing. And they end up someplace where I didn't make it to New York. Scam. No, you just refuse to admit the reality of your situation. But if I'm in Texas, I acknowledge I'm in Texas and I get directions from Texas to New York. I get to fucking New York magically and everybody fucking high fives each other. Most people are just living the gap. The real gap is between where somebody actually is and where they're either genuinely think they are because they just didn't know, or they know that they are, but they're afraid to admit. That's the real gap between where somebody is and where they want to go. Because once you have that really painful admission that you had where you thought you were in Texas and realized that you were in fucking Oregon, now you actually could have directions that actually got you to New York. And that's why you've arrived in New York. Walk me through an alternative. I'm open. I wish it was easier. I wish it was faster. It's not. But the good news is this works. It's workable and it's fundamental no matter what business you're in, life you live, or whatever. This is how you get from point A to point B, period, full stop, in my opinion. Thoughts, considerations, questions before we have a little break? In fact, I'm gonna maybe call out some takeaways. Anybody have something that you had an aha moment, a realization, something was reconfirmed to you? Yeah,
I take it that you guys have been in more of the female like business coaching spaces, but I kind of got into that and more of like the just post out like just more of those feeling vibes, and my business data matches that exactly. That's exactly why I signed up for this program.
yeah,
So it just validated that for me, and also just as I reflect back on my journey, oh yeah, that's why my business is like that.
yeah, good. Was it you, Ron?
I was gonna say, it's piggyback on that. I think, yeah, one of the reasons why I signed up, I think it was because of the tough love I knew it was gonna get. It's just like you're like, it's a truth teller. I heard sometimes, but I just the takeaway, just that whole question, the big theme, what does the data say? It's just made it a lot easier to like self-care for yourself. When you're giving the example of an offer thing, like not that, as you were talking, I was kind of in a situation that's what's the data say, and that was just kind of like having that as a program is really good, like reminder.
Nice, nice. I'm glad. And but to be clear, I'm not a truth teller. I just help you look at your own truth so that you can finally do something about it. I didn't make any of this shit up. I'm just like, you don't want to look at the shit. I'll just make sure I rub your nose in it so you finally fucking see it. Nice. Who else? I saw a couple of their, yeah.
I like life as a game. It's something I read a while ago in a book, but you make your own rules.
Yeah.
And that's some shit I can apply literally.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. You literally can design your life and business however you fucking want. You do not have to adhere. I don't believe there's anybody else who runs the same funnel that I run. It's not a, like, I figured out the fucking new funnel strategy for 2026. Now I will market it that way because that's what you motherfuckers are attracted to. But it's sell them what they want, give them what they need. So you just, as you're watching me fucking say shit on YouTube videos and shit, just understand I'm begrudgingly telling the fucking prospects out there at large, watch what I'm doing, understanding what you now know. Don't take what I say like on content as necessarily gospel. I'm drawing in with what the language and what I know will draw them in, and aggressively fucking switching it up and giving them a hard fucking cold shower. And those who are like, oh shit, I needed that. Easiest fucking, you guys are the best. Thank you, by the way, for being the best fucking clients I've ever had and making it so I don't have to fucking build a big bloated team to close your asses into here.
That's the question. You were talking about, and was it a workshop, because people shouldn't actually do this.
Yeah, it's easy for, so everybody in this industry has been trained on, oh, webinars are working now. How do I run a webinar? First, just copy and paste this webinar funnel, right? So that's like how people have been trained to think in this industry because it's marketable. It sounds easy, but that's also why I get the worst fucking clients with that. And it causes a whole bunch of back end requirements and your profitability tanks and you want to shoot yourself. I digress. So I say that as a preamble to that because just like I did here, this first morning of this is a precursor to the rest of the shit that you guys are like, I want to talk about that. Like we will, but it will not fucking work without that shit I just went through. So I'm warning, you probably shouldn't copy this. If I made it like the long version would have been talking about how you need to have the setting and closing conversations to fully understand the psychology in order to make any of this actually work the way I make it work, but you can apply pieces of it that will make what you're currently doing work easier, but do not hit the delete button on your existing funnel because I've figured out the fancy fucking magic funnel for 2026. That's not what this is. Don't try to take it that way. If you do, just don't be disappointed if you fell flat on your face and waste a lot of money. Just like I'm letting you know now, it'll probably distract you. You probably don't have the skill sets yet to actually make it work this way, but you fucking people have been asking me how I'm doing it, so I'm sharing it with you, but just understand it comes with that huge disclaimer.
Okay.
Yeah. You guys notice like the persuasion, it's a real thing. What happens before a thing is what dictates how that thing goes all the way up the line. And we'll get into that as we get into some of the technical stuff, but how you guys are as clients is largely based on how I set the expectation of what the fuck's going to happen. All I got to do is get your agreement, right? And I have to make it to where you're like, oh, that makes sense. I see how that could work for me. And I have to match that with what I'm willing and not willing to do. And then once I match those things, I just have to tell you, here's how it is. Here are the rules. If you like it, great. Here's the terms. If you don't like it, great. Bye. And it becomes really easy. And the people who say yes, despite my heavy, like, this is going to suck. People who say yes to that, this is going to suck, and I'm not allowed to give you a hard time. Awesome. Let's do it. You see, I save myself a whole bunch of client support, right? And why I'm like, also, people are like, oh, give me the technicals of your Facebook ad setup. Give me an over-the-shoulder training. You notice if you watch those, I'm like, look, I learned all the fucking technical bullshit I know from YouTube. You can do it too. I'm going to give you the idea here. If you ask me for an over-the-shoulder tutorial on how to install Facebook Pixel, I'm going to understand that you'll never work in my universe, because a simple goddamn YouTube video with somebody who's dedicated their entire life to this concept has already done that. And you haven't had the resourcefulness to go and search for it on YouTube. I am not going to make a video on that because what happens is you're basically pandering and you're training them. Here's how it works with me. You're dumb and unresourceful. You come to me and beg because you're just sitting there dumb and unresourceful. I can't reward that behavior with a resource. I have to tell you that's your behavior's fucked, and you better change that shit. Because if you can't do a simple YouTube search, I certainly do not want to have you in my universe for a year, let alone a fucking minute. That's a good clip. So what I'm going to do with this shit that's recording here is I'm going to cut out shit as clips like that. Here's a hint for those of you who watch the Propaganda Machine, the self-building clients. All this shit that I'm saying right now is going to be I'm going to cut probably that whole segment out as a YouTube video. But the title is going to be something fancy that's going to draw in all the people that are like, ooh, fancy bullshit. And then they're going to get a big dose of reality, and there's going to be a percentage of people that they're like, I resonate with that, and they're going to fucking go through my funnel, and they're going to give me money. And the first time I'm ever going to talk to them is after they've already paid me money and understand the rules of the game. And we get right into it, it's super fucking efficient, and they double their business in 30 days. Holy fuck. You see how that works? So the hint, how do you solve a lot of these problems? That increases client quality. My lead strategy is just basically yell at the people that I want, yell at the people that I don't want, and just force it in front of people. And I just basically bait them with what's on their mind right now. And then switch it into, here's what you need, you fucking volatile asshole, right? And so then I just force that in front of them. Here's how I roll. Here's what happens when you roll this way. If you want to roll that way, here's what happens next. Don't you dare ask me for some fucking, I have had people like, I feel like if I was going to spend 24 grand with you, at least you could do is get on call with me. I'm like, huh? Nope. Bye. That was also the guy who flexed his screenshot of, I went with another coach. Here's my proof of paying him his 15 grand. I'm like, awesome. You couldn't pay me 15 grand to even consider spending an hour with you. Happy person. So I put that as a piece of content. That's going to piss off people like, you should really care more about your clients. I fucking do. And that's why I do what I do. I have a responsibility to wake your fucking ass up and get you up out of the delusion and inactuality that you live in, not create resources that reinforce that. Because once you create a resource in that context or a similar context, now you've trained your clients to go, oh boy, all I got to do is prove that I'm incompetent, and he'll just go hard to work for me. You're just playing into it. That's why I don't need fucking client support reps. If you need somebody to sit there and hold your fucking hand, you should find somebody else and really evaluate whether you're being cause in life or effect in life. Hint, that operating basis is only coming from one place, all at once, cause or effect. Nice, all at once, cause or effect. All at once, cause or effect. Jesus Christ. One more time. Eli, can you help me lead this one? You're really good at this shit.
We're gonna go cause or effect on 3. 1, 2, 3. Cause or effect.
No, we're gonna say
We know.
somebody's
Everybody ain't different shit.
it's a fact.
We don't know. You didn't.
It's a fact.
appreciate it well.
If you are if you're being a victim to, or somebody else is giving you the answers in life, you're being a victim in life. Are you cause or effect?
Fact.
Thank you. All right. Sorry, I didn't tee it up. Thank you. So if I allow somebody to think that it's okay to live in effect, and I keep creating resources and hiring people because my clients are demanding that we need more support calls and shit like that, it's easy to take that and guess what? Do more support calls. I'm not willing to do more than one call a week. I won't do it. I will do the initiation call for a couple different reasons. A, it's the easiest PIP opportunity ever. They've already paid money, they're already bought in, and we add an enormous amount of value on that initiation call. And I say, do you want to save a couple bucks and pay in full? Then I run the card on file. Easiest PIPs in fucking history. No objection. I don't handle objections anymore. So my point is, when you train people and you shock them out of their delusion and you get them going, fuck, if I keep doing with this operating basis, what's going to happen to me? I need to change this, and I need to get my shit together, and I need to wake up out of my soft little weak delusion that I live in. Now you get clients that take responsibility for their own results. And now guess what? They don't come to you going, I didn't get results. You said you were going to, I'm like, maybe, I don't know. I just tell them to go clear a fucking resentment charge on me. Anybody cleared a resentment charge on me by a show of hands? Yeah, nice. Good. And you're here. And he's smiling. I didn't have to have one single conversation reconvincing Michael Borgout that I'm a decent guy. I said, go clear a resentment charge. And he did. And he's here smiling. That's what we call leverage. So when you have resources and you outline the rules correctly, that took me a total of 2 seconds versus a 2-hour client recovery call. Anybody ever been on a 2-hour client recovery call in some way, shape, or form? Yeah, everybody's fucking hands on it.
We really don't handle any of it.
No, I don't give a fuck.
That's one thing I spent years developing a skill. But if
You take the skill, you put it in a piece of content, and you force it in front of it fucking over and over again to where they would feel like a retard that had that objection and they came to you and they had the gall to give you that objection. Fuck you. We can't work together. If you already knew how this rolled and then you had the gall to come to this call and think you were some exception to this fucking rule after I just primed you on how I work, I'm going to say this in this, like, this is one of many clips. I don't handle objections. If you come to me and you haven't watched my shit, you try to breeze through it, you just give me the price, like, you're not a fit, that's a pre-qualifier. I know how you do stuff. And I know if you're like, just give me the price, I don't want to go through fucking ManyChat automations like fucking everybody else did. What makes you special? Because I already know that maybe the worst client ever. I don't want to handle that objection, but I will make this piece of content and I will force that in front of your fucking reel speed at a 5x per day frequency. See what I'm saying? And I will weave it into my YouTube videos and shit. And then I will force those in front of you. And if you go through all of that and you have the gall to get my fucking, like, I only talked to anybody that I ever only actually interfaced with in the DMs. I'll go through the I'll find the numbers, the exact numbers, but the way that I have my funnel set up, I only talk to people interfacing with people who have already consumed an enormous amount of the bullshit that I'm talking about this morning, or they're a warm referral from a trusted source like you. And they've already pre-qualified themselves. If they have a question, I'll answer 1 or 2 questions. If they demand some bullshit, I just don't work that way. You should, like, oh, cool, man. Like, how's that working for you? I don't work that way. I'm not your guy. Don't apply. Next.
It does make sense to me. If I really think about it, I've never had an amazing client that needed a ton of rejection.
Yes.
Totally shitty.
You can close more and make more money, but in my experience, now it's possible, to be clear. I'm not saying it's impossible. For example, like Cole Gordon's organization, like, do you know how many people Cole has on his team now? Yeah. It's possible, to be clear. There's lots of benefits to that. Obviously, sharp fucking guy. So nothing against, it's not like that's impossible. I'm just saying whether you sell with calls and you close people or not, if you pre-handle all this shit and you get all of the beliefs, you get your clients to know who you are, how you roll, you can take all your objection handling, belief shifting shit that you've learned, you just put it in content and you force it in front of them before they even get into a call type of a situation.
With retard. Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So I use those types of things as like pre-qualifiers of like, how are they going to be as a client? because I could have closed way more people, but it's going to cost me in terms of time and fulfillment that I've narrowed down what is my hourly rate that I'm willing to accept. That's worked into this whole thing. If I have to spend more than X number of hours with you hand holding and tear wiping, that makes my model break down because my hourly rate starts to plummet with that individual client. So I'm pre-qualifying the client so that I know this client's going to come in, pay in full, and I'm going to spend a total aggregate over the next 12 months with them, personally, with them, maybe 4 hours, maybe. That's $6,000 an hour. If they're not primed properly, and I need to hire client support people to also do some shit because my resources aren't very leveraged because I decided it wasn't worth the time to actually create decent shit and all this stuff. Now a $24,000 client comes with a $2,000 fucking client fulfill, or probably more than that, client fulfillment person that's also going to give me a hard time and keep bringing me. I keep having a problem with Michael Borgill. This guy's being a pain in the ass, and I go, shit. We got to deal with it. So now I'm handling the client support manager who's having a tough time, and he's wasting the time wiping Michael Borgell's. You're great. I love you, and you're fantastic.
A lot of tears too.
No, that's okay. Every tear is a charge released, and that's actually true. But do you see how this now starts to becoming hilariously inefficient? Those types of clients, when brought in under those pretenses, sure. Can you close them? Yeah. Can you get money out of them? Yeah. Can you flex? I closed this many people and generated this much sales. Yes. But it's unless you're like really dialed on the fulfillment side and you have systems to handle their bullshit, it's going to be very expensive bullshit. And it's going to cost you as much, if not more, to fulfill on the client than it costs than they paid you. You guys see how that works into all of this? You need less systems because the clients don't need so much shit. So you need to build less stuff. Right, which we'll dive into the thought process of how to create this afternoon. But how do you create more leverage? You eliminate the source of all of the symptoms and you solve the main core problem, which is the client quality and client expectations. And if you do that before they even consider becoming a client, now we're getting real efficient on the fulfillment side, which all that does is beef up your profit margin and make it to where you don't have to sit there and go, God damn it, I'm messing this motherfucker again. Anybody ever felt that way with the client? This fucking guy, you see him in your inbox and you're just like, God, shit. You can eliminate that right out of the gate. You take that messaging conversation or whatever email they sent, you make a piece of content on it. Here's why I fired a client. They sent me an email like this. Make a whole YouTube video on it and how you're not willing to tolerate this type of bullshit. Piece of content. And then just hammer it in front of your fucking prospects. No, they'll see it, and they're not going to come to you with, and they'll be terrified to send you a message like that. That's how you take your objection handling skill. You move it all the way out front. Yeah. Did you watch my propaganda machine workshop? That's obvious. All right. What? It's good shit. This is how I'm doing. This is how you guys are here. Yeah.
I'm just curious, do you plan on raising a business program?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your thought process?
Right now, I'm dialing in the acquisition and getting that to where it's pretty fucking predictable, and it's getting better. And then I'm just monitoring capacity and whether or not I want to start punching people in the face. So I may get to 50. I think we have something like 60. Is it 60? Oh, it's somewhere around 50 to 60 people in boardroom at the moment. I'm going to just see how it goes and and just keep tabs on with you guys. Like you're only a couple of fucking weeks in, right? We'll see. Yeah. So like, I'm going to see how the timelines and life cycles of what does the client journey look like and what problems may or may not arise at month 3 or 6 or 9. But also if I reinforce these fundamentals and it's something like this and it's on record, and I put it on YouTube, and you guys are also in my retargeting audience, I believe. How many of you guys have seen me in your feed in the last week? Okay. So if I just keep reminding you how I roll, this is a huge piece too. Your clients, how many of you guys as clients have watched at least one of my YouTube videos in the last 3 months? Okay. Make your YouTube videos also to remind your clients how you roll. They forget. I sometimes find myself for shit that I buy, instead of actually consuming And how many of you guys now actually watch more of my organic content than you did prior to becoming a client just because you paid money to be here? It forces that commitment level, forces content consumption, whether it's behind a paywall or it's free. So especially for an MRR retention type of a model, like I have to continually resell you and remind you on what the fuck we were talking about this morning. Is in general, that's the big idea here. And as long as you're continually sold on the big idea, theoretically, you feel like an idiot for going someplace else and buying some fucking stupid thing that you know isn't actually the thing that moves the needle, right? So it's ethical manipulation. That's why we have an ethical manipulation masterclass. We're shifting beliefs and then reconfirming beliefs constantly with people that you've already sold, increasing retention, increasing resells, and so on and so forth. So I find myself consuming, if I buy something, I'll be like, oh, what's this guy's doing on YouTube? I never watched a YouTube video, but I'll start watching their YouTube videos just because I bought their thing. So I know that's also the case with you guys because I watch and I have the analytics on and I ask you like this and I see hands go up and I'm like, cool, that reconfirms the frequency metric that I'm seeing in my ads picture. So I know my 5x frequency is probably pretty fucking close, right? And so that's how I, instead of one-on-one conversations with you guys, I use group format, whether it's a workshop or something like this, or one-to-many YouTube or retargeting with reels or carousels and shit like that, to just reinstill belief systems and remind you, hey, remember, because I know you're getting bombarded in your feeds too with a whole bunch of shiny objects all the fucking time. Some of them probably shit on things that I'm saying. A good marketer would take what I'm saying and find reasons to why that's stupid. And there's always exceptions that you can find. As a good marketer, you want to think like an attorney. You want to be able to state your case for both sides unequivocally. So I could make a case against everything that I'm saying too. I know all the counter arguments. I know all the examples of the counter arguments. I just disagree, but I know how to craft them. It's easy. It's quite simple. If you become totally objective and set your ego aside with your ways right, I just have more evidence that these frameworks that I'm taking you guys through creates a better sustainable result than anything else I've seen. So I share it, right? So all of this, like even after somebody has paid you money, huge, because they're probably, if their client you just closed, probably going to watch the next piece of content they see from you. And it's either going to reconfirm that they made a good decision, or it's going to give them doubt as to whether or not that was the right decision. So every piece of content that I make, I'm talking to and using your feedback or lack thereof in environments like this, or on initiation calls, or on one of our Monday calls, whatever. And I just spit that back out into a YouTube video and sometimes rant about it or remind them of framework. But you notice in every video, I go through those 7 pillars. I'm like, I'm going to share with you this cool thing that you want, but if you don't understand this shit, you're fucked. Okay, so then you watch it. And you guys have seen me do this in my YouTube videos. If you've watched more than one in the last 3 months, I'm reminding you, if I get you to believe that you need all those 7 things in order to get from point A to point B, then all objections become irrelevant and you must buy, and or you must stay, and or you must reconfirm to yourself that you made a good choice. All it does is reconfirm that belief. It's Russell Brunson's big domino statement. So once you have that for yourself and you understand the core beliefs, now all you're doing is brainwashing your fucking target audience so that they believe that shit. The good news is when I brainwash somebody, their business doubles. When the government brainwashes people, they fucking take vaccines and die and stuff. You can use those same principles to create or destroy. It's all the same stuff. So once you understand that, now you can think, if somebody was brand new to my universe, what's probably a thing that makes sense for them to see? Somebody's already seen my offer. What probably makes sense for them to see? Somebody's already bought my offer. What probably makes sense for them to see? And the more of them that you see and talk to and engage with at that level, the easier it is to make content. So instead of handling objections directly one-on-one for somebody who's, I need a call, or I'm going to finish this thing, but I'm totally going to work with you later, instead of me going, you shouldn't, because that trains them to believe that I'm going to engage with them in the DMs and pander to their bullshit objection. I don't. They're expecting me to, which is also a pattern interrupt. They're expecting me to set and close them. I don't. which also increases trust because they're expecting to be gotten. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, dude, whatever you want. They're like that. I don't feel like I'm being attacked. And then what I'll do is I'll take what I really want to say to them in the DMs and I'll maybe take a piece of content and jam it in front of them. And they'll be like, as soon as I felt like that was really just talking to me. And I'm like, haha, because it was. I just didn't do it in a way that was directed at you one-on-one. I did it in a way to where you just watched a piece of content that seemed to be relevant to you and exactly what you needed to hear. But because I was doing it in the way that you wanted to receive it, you don't want to receive it directly in the DMs, that's combative. So I'll lean back out, but I will be just a fucking aggressive as hell in the content. And I will force it in front of you and tell you what I really want to say to you unabashedly. And I can't tell you the number of people that have joined and be like, all right, you motherfucker, I saw this and damn it, I'm in. That's how most people come in, yeah.
Are you doing like a specific routine period on that 7 days?
We'll cover the details of that. I have some rules that I'm following. The big main one is I have like hottest bottom of funnel retargeting is people who have viewed my offer doc, and I think it's purchasers of the book in the last 180. I'll have to look exactly, but it's like the warmest of the warmest of the warm, their consideration phase. That retargeting is less about belief shifting and more about here's the logistics. It's actually pieces of our onboarding video that I've split up. And also one of them is a full onboarding video. And that audience size is like 600 people. So it cost me like nothing to get a 5x frequency on that. And it's talking to them from the onboarding video as if they already just joined. So it's assumptive closing via content. Here's what's going to happen next. We're going to do this and I'm going to do this. Looking forward to seeing you on our initiation. So you see that enough. How many of you guys have seen one of those from me? Yeah. So if you see that enough, you start to buy it's propaganda. It's how brainwashing has been done historically with media in history. It's how it's still done. And you just have this, I feel like I'm already a client. And then the only thing to do when you feel like you're already a client is become a client.
Yeah.
And then from there moving out, if somebody has yet to DM/apply or whatever, that's like my middle of funnel. But even then, that audience is only maybe 1,000 people that I'm hitting with like 50 pieces of content that I basically set a 2x, 2 times every 7 days frequency cap, optimizing for through plays. And then I just keep adding to it.
It's got me a lot of ideas right now, bro.
And I figured as much. And then I just keep adding to it. So I'll take clips like in my mind, I know right now, there's some shit I said on Thursday morning that was baller. So I'll take the Zoom recording of this, load it into script, have it transcribe it, and I'll fast forward to, it was about whatever time it was. And I'll just watch it on 2.5x speed. And I'll be like, yeah, this is where I started to go off. And then I'll be like, which one of the go offs, which 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 are worth putting into short form reels? Then I will do that. And if I plan on actually deliberately running it as a retargeting ad, I will bleep out the curse word so it's compliant. I'll download it and I'll add it to that retargeting audience. And I just keep adding content to it. It includes testimonials, belief shifting shit, actual value of here, you can do this. And I'm only hammering that in front of people that are like pretty fucking warm. In my top of funnel, I lead with the book funnel. I'm only liquidating about 30% of it. But because of what happens before an action dictates how that action goes, I lead with my testimonial ads about the book. Thank you, Eli. You've sold me a lot of books recently. What I did is I have some that are a montage. You've seen the montage one where there's 30 people in it. Then I looked at, okay, who might I be able to splice out just theirs and test a variation of that? And I did that with Eli, Dan Henry, you, Brandon. Brandon happens to bring in a bunch of ghetto motherfuckers, unfortunately, especially with the Andromeda update. It's going to force it in front of an audience that isn't exactly my ideal prospect, but love to Brandon. But one with just you is doing well. This does 2 things. It's the reason why, who is it? Is it Russell that he'll only speak if he has a specific video play that introduces him?
I don't know.
There's a bunch of guys that do that. Like they'll only have, I don't want anybody to introduce me. I want this specific video played as a pre-frame to my talk. Somehow that sticks with me as somebody was doing that. I want to say it was Russell Brunson, but I could be wrong. I sell this book that's, I guess, some asshole talking about fucking mindset, right? I understand that's the general reception of that subject matter. But if I have all of these people follow and admire and respect and whatever, saying this is great shit, it totally changes the dynamic of how that stuff is received. You see what I'm saying? If a homeless guy says the same words that Eli was saying on that ad, it wouldn't convert quite as well, right? So now that's an asset that I have that that not everybody fucking has. And I use that with utmost care because I understand that also frames how the industry views you by association. I do not take that lightly because it doesn't take much to completely unravel that and fuck that shit up. So side note, very aware of that. You have to be, otherwise you're fucked. One wrong move, now all those people are saying great things that the industry respects and takes their word for shit can start saying bad things. And I now have a much harder battle. But I will say, leading with the book testimonial ads, much higher customer acquisition cost, much higher AOV. If I lead with an ad that's, hey, are you this person who has this problem? Much lower customer acquisition cost, much lower take rate on upsells and conversions on the back end. Because of the tip of the spear, how that came in was, John's great by all these people that I follow, love, and admire and respect. Now I'm being introduced as the guy who's got some shit that might be helpful. And everything that happens after that is under like the first introduction is like this legendary, who's this guy? He must be good. All these people that I know are saying good stuff. If you do that with generic testimonials that nobody the fuck has ever heard of, it doesn't work as well. Just some asshole saying good stuff that you could have paid. So that makes it easier when so this guy's good, but what does he do? I force feed consumption of the book, which by the way is a VSL in written form. And all I do is retarget you with belief shifting stuff. And you already know in the back of your mind, all these other people are saying good stuff. It doesn't take much to push you over the edge. And as long as I don't put you in a buying situation that makes you fucking annoyed, which is the current book a call, get hard closed model. If I make it to where this is different, it's a pattern interrupt. Sure, the time to conversion is longer. My average time from lead to sale with this cycle is about 67 days. And it's getting shorter. I have people like yours fucking day. Your referrals, I'm not counting as much. This still counts into the averages, but you just got to know you're going to extend by doing it without a manual human conversion. It's going to really increase your timeline because you're basically force feeding the 7-hour rule. You just have to get the right people in your ecosystem to force feed your 7 hours of content. And most people running like the call model, it's not bad, but the hour back and forth with the DM setter counts. That's manual and it's expensive and it's less controllable because if the setter says something that fucks up, now it's an hour that was spent that we need another hour to recover because the setter fucked up. Whereas if I just use content and I distribute it, I control every single word that you hear. That's why I cut my own clips, why I don't outsource it. But I basically am creating a whole bunch of setters and closers and I'm deploying them as a fucking army and I have full control over what they say all the time. So your 7 hours is either going to spend an hour in a DM setting conversation back and forth, an hour on call 1, an hour on call 2, there's 3 hours and maybe 4 more hours of content consumption. Or we force feed 7 hours of content consumption to where it's like they feel stupid for not becoming a client because all they do is see you in their feed 5 times a day, saying shit that's directly talking to them, directly annihilating all of their beliefs that they have that are keeping them from moving forward. And the great news about doing it in content is you can say the shit in your content that you would never say on a sales call, or unless you had an enormous amount of trust and rapport built. And even then you would have to soften the blow. You can say shit in content that, man, that really hit me, but fuck. But they give you a pass because it's content. Yeah, it's just polarizing content. See? That's the macro of how do you get people to close themselves without a conversion mechanism that involves a human. But I will tell you, it's impossible to make the right content and have the right deployable army of virtual setters and closers without having, I've had thousands of sales interactions with you types of people, one-on-one. That's how I know what to say. Without that, do you have the scripts? No, fuck you. Wrong mindset. Wrong thought process. It's not the scripts. So if I was going to sell this as like a low ticket product, I'd be like, and I'm going to give you my scripts, which I probably would. And I just reverse engineer some chat GPT bullshit and be like, look, I gave you the script because you fucking asked for it, but they're not what matters. In fact, you're probably better off never opening them. That would be like one of the first things I would do in this low ticket product is shit on the product that they just bought and reinstill the beliefs that they really need to have. And tell them, if you really want to get your shit, yeah, sure, this will help you. If you really want to get your shit together, you can't just be the script motherfucker. I just sold that to you because you wouldn't buy it otherwise, because that's how you've been trained to buy. And I believe I have a responsibility to get you into my ecosystem to give you a chance of actually hitting the goals that you want to hit. But I can't do that if I pander into your script infatuation. So I'll just annihilate that belief immediately. So you can either do that manually or you can do it with content. You're just gonna have a real tough time with the content unless you're real good at shifting the people live manually. And you can see, oh, I said that and that worked. First of all, write it down, document it, and then weave that shit into your content. Or if you're smart, you record yourself on video while taking sales calls, and as you're handling an objection, you just clip that out as a clip. And you have a piece of content that says whatever the objection was the headline, and then you just have a recording of you artfully handling it that you've already recorded on a sales call, and you literally have your recorded objections that you're now just hammering in front of your fucking prospects. That's how you take your objection handling skill and create leverage from it. Make sense?